Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar, Random House Children's Books Fall 2022 Librarian Preview. I am Ronny Khuri, Books for Youth Associate Editor at Booklist. My pronouns are he and him. And before we begin, I will go over some technical details. A link to today's slide presentation was included in a reminder email that you received from Zoom 1 hour ago. If you would like to download it, please open that email, scroll to the bottom, and click on the link located there. You can also download the slides by copying the URL on this screen into your web browser. If you have any trouble, you can contact us at webinars@booklistonline.com. If you are in the audience, you are in listen-only mode, but we do welcome any questions that you may have. So on the bottom of your screen is a toolbar with a section for Q&A. If you have a question or if you need technical assistance, you can just click Q&A and type your message into the box that pops up. We will respond to all of the tech-related questions, and we can pass along all other questions to today's panelists. That way they can follow up with you after the webinar. And we will be having a Q&A with a special guest today, so if you have questions for her, feel free to send those in as well. And finally, Booklist offers closed captioning on all of our webinars. So to enable or disable captions on your screen, please look for and click the live transcript icon on the toolbar that I mentioned previously. From there, you can select show or hide subtitles from the menu that appears. If you choose to enable subtitles, you can adjust the size of the captions at any time by selecting subtitle settings. And today we have the pleasure of hearing from the Random House Children's Books School and Library team about some of their wonderful fall titles. But we are going to begin the webinar today with a brief presentation and conversation with Carole Boston Weatherford. Carole is a two-time NAACP Image Award winner and the author of Unspeakable, The Tulsa Race Massacre, which won the Coretta Scott King Author and Illustrator Awards, Caldecott Honor, and a Seabird Honor, as well as the Newbery Honor Book Box, Henry Brown Mails Himself to Freedom, and the Caldecott Honor Books, Freedom in Congo Square, Voice of Freedom, Fannie Lou Hamer, Spirit of the Civil Rights Movement, and Moses, When Harriet Tubman Led Her People to Freedom. Born in Baltimore, she now teaches at Fayetteville State University in North Carolina. Thank you so much for being here, Carole.
Thank you, Ronny, for moderating this session, and thank you, Booklist, for hosting it. I'm really happy to be here. I'm coming to you from the Highlights Foundation in the Pocono Mountains of Pennsylvania. So I'm at a really idyllic setting, and it kind of makes me think of, all the things that I'm grateful for and about my own spiritual life. So I'm glad to be talking about Standing in the Need of Prayer, a modern retelling of the classic American spiritual. The book was the brainchild of Sonali Fry. She went to church one morning. I think she was visiting her sister. And as she entered the church, the spiritual was being sung, and she was just captivated by it. And evidently she thought of me because she contacted me soon after to share an idea about adding new verses to the spiritual that would contemporize it. And so I was, as the granddaughter of a minister and a former first lady of a church myself, that means you are the minister's wife. I'm no longer a minister's wife, but for about 20 years I was happy to take on Sonali's challenge. I was also happy to collaborate once again with Frank Morrison. This is our fourth collaboration, and two of those, and actually my second collaboration with him on a book that has spiritual undertones. So I'm going to share the screen and share some of the spreads with you. And if you will bear with me, I'm also going to try to sing some of the verses. So hang in there with me. As you can see, Frank Morrison is just really, uber talented. And, I love the way that he weaves history into these contemporary settings. So you can see that the boy on the cover has an afro, but within his afro are scenes from African American history. And of course, you can't touch on African American history, not the sweep of history, without touching on the slavery era. So these are this is the fly leaf. All right, so here goes. It's me, oh Lord, standing in the need of prayer. It's me, oh Lord, standing in the need of prayer. Not my mother, not my father, but it's me, oh Lord, standing in the need of prayer. Not my mother, not my father, but it's me, oh Lord, standing in the need of prayer. It's families enslaved and sold apart, standing in the need of prayer. It's runaways fleeing the yoke by dark, standing in the need of prayer. It's a preacher with a scar like a lightning bolt, standing in the need of prayer. It's a band of rebels who are plotting revolt, standing in the need of prayer. It's freedmen seeking kin at emancipation, standing in the need of prayer. It's millions on the move in the great migration, standing in the need of prayer. And I think that's enough to give you the idea. At least it's enough for you to determine that I need to keep the day job, and don't even dream of a life on the concert stage. So I'll show you some more scenes. Of course, this is the Tuskegee Airmen, a Tuskegee Airman and composer and musician Duke Ellington. That's Ruby Bridges as she integrates school in New Orleans. Of course, that's Reverend King, Flojo, and Colin Kaepernick. So we celebrate athletes, we celebrate activists, we celebrate orators, we celebrate young people's voices, and of course we hope to inspire with this book. So Ronny, I'm ready for your questions.
I'm here. Thank you so much. Thank you for singing. That's a real treat. And it really adds something to the book that I didn't get before. So that's great. Okay. You talked about getting the inspiration from Sonali Fry. I wanted to ask about the choice to do the full sweep of history. It sounds like the initial idea was adding the verses. So why did you go for that, like, kind of zoomed out, larger scope, and what were you hoping to accomplish with that?
I have so many projects in the works. I can't remember whether Sonali and I initially agreed to cover the sweep of history, or whether that was an afterthought. But I think that was the way we intended from at the outset. Because she wanted to contemporize it, but because the spiritual itself was rooted in slavery times, I didn't want to leave that out either. So, I wanted to, of course, honor the ancestors and with their history, but their sacrifices, their struggle under enslavement, but also catch up and add some new chapters to the story.
Right. And how did you, there's so many figures you could have drawn from, and you've obviously done a lot of work on biographies and that sort of work. So how did you pinpoint individuals kind of across the centuries?
Well, of course, as you said, I have already written about some of these people before. So, some of these people have made cameos in other books. Duke Ellington appears in my book, Sugar Hill. I have what I call an unbiography of Martin Luther King. I've devoted a book to the Tuskegee Airmen. I've celebrated athletes before. Never. I think I did mention Flojo in a poem years ago. So these are people who have have been with me for a long time and who have inspired me over the years to write about them, sometimes more than once. So I wanted to, choose some of the people that were influential during their time period, but I also wanted to include, more contemporary people like Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah, I saw you snuck, or maybe Frank snuck a poster of Billie Holiday into the background as well.
Yeah, and I've written about her as well. So
Uh-huh.
and that's I hadn't even noticed that yet, to be honest. I'm gonna have to look for that one.
Yeah, there's some good details in there.
Yeah, she's my muse, by the way.
Right. Yeah, of course. And so you're no stranger also to bringing kind of sensitive and sophisticated topics and themes to younger readers. So on a craft level, how do you go about that, making it sort of accessible and safe without compromising kind of the seriousness of the subject?
Well, I really respect young people, and I give them a lot of credit. They understand more than many adults give them credit for. They know more than they'll ever tell us that they know. So, although we may think that the themes are sophisticated, if kids don't hear about sophisticated subjects from us, from adults, they're going to learn about them from other kids. So, I of course want to present the subject matter in a way that is accessible for them and not threatening, but at the same time recognizing that some of these subjects are provocative. And even if my aim is not to provoke, the kids will ask questions. I do not think kids are too tender for tough topics, and I think kids always know the right questions to ask. The problem is often that adults are not comfortable discussing those subjects or answering those questions, but that's not an excuse for not exposing kids. Because kids demand, I believe kids deserve and will demand the truth.
Absolutely, and that's obviously a very important sentiment for the current time.
And of course, the song, the musicality, the rhyme, whether the text is sung or read, that's also an entry point for kids. Rhyme is seductive and and infectious in its own way, as is music. So I think that's also a way, a good way to at least an entree into a topic for a kid, for children.
Absolutely. And so considering your audience, and considering you're an educator, among other things, do you have any thoughts on kind of how you hope this book would be used by educators, or what you hope readers will take away from it?
Well, I would really love for teachers to play the spiritual, the traditional spiritual first, and so that kids can kind of have the tune in their heads as they read the book, or maybe maybe they will have picked up the tune and they can hear, they can sing the text themselves. But I also suggest that teachers read the back matter first, because the back matter is rather extensive. It's funny nowadays, often the back matter in my books is longer than the interior text. And that's because my text is often sparse, and to really do nonfiction justice, you need to provide background information that sets context and also that extends the learning. So the teachers should read about the historical figures or historical events that are mentioned in the text, and then teach about those first, so that kids are familiar with these milestones in history and with these historical figures before they hear the text. Otherwise, they might be, for example, I don't mention Duke Ellington by name. I don't mention, the text does not mention the Tuskegee Airmen, but the illustrations do. And that was by design. I suggested that, that the scene to go with that verse include a Tuskegee Airman, and perhaps include a Duke Ellington or some other African-American genius. So I think it's important that the kids know who the historical figures are and what the historical events are before they read the text. I mean, it's fine for them to read the back matter after as well, but if they read it afterwards, then they need to go back and read the text again so that they can have a deeper understanding.
Right. Yeah, there's so many kind of ways you can go, like launch points that this book sets up for conversations and learning more.
Sure. And I also suggest that, in terms of extending the text, that teachers, students, either individually or collaboratively, add additional verses, add their own verses to the song. Perhaps even paying tribute to some leaders in their own community or some events that happened in their own communities.
I like that. So if any classrooms are listening today, write some verses and share them with us so we can pass them along.
Right.
So you mentioned that you suggested some of the imagery to Frank Morrison, and you have been paired up a few times now. Do you all have a kind of working relationship? Do you collaborate directly, or is it more that you do the manuscript and hand it off? And
right, I handed it off. I didn't talk to him directly as he was working on the manuscript, and he's actually working on another one now, and we've not communicated at all about that. My suggestions go to the editor, and I suspect get passed on to either the illustrator or get passed on to the art director, who passes them on to the illustrator.
Gotcha. And when you got to see the artwork initially, was there anything that he brought into the manuscript that surprised you or that you didn't expect? Or
I just love the way that he puts these scenes, in like inside people's hair or on garments, and he's able to just pack so much history into one illustration, because he's not just painting that scene, he's imbuing it with so much more historical heft and historical detail. So yeah. I really admire that about his work.
He's amazing. Yeah, I hope everybody spends a lot of time looking at the art as well, because there's so many little connections that cross over the generations in the book, which is really neat.
Right, and this really is a book, I think, that can be shared across generations, and can be shared not only in classrooms, but also in community settings and in church settings. So I hope it will be shared in all of those places.
Absolutely. Sort of a craft question for you. So you're a poet and you're a historian and you're an educator, you're a mother, you're many things. And this book really draws on all of those elements. I wondered, when you're approaching a manuscript in general, is there one of those sort of aspects of you or your artwork that comes to the forefront? Like, do you start with the poetry feeling, or are you doing the research first? Or
well, for this one, because it was not about one particular person or one particular historical event. I'm just kind of, mentioning, name dropping people, or not even necessarily by name. And I've done so much research for other books. I didn't have to do a lot of specific research for this book. I did more research for the back matter to discuss African-American spirituals than I did for the text of the book, because I have this wealth of knowledge as a result of research that I've done for other projects. So I was able to, just approach this from a poetic and a musical standpoint, and just figure out, okay, well, what I knew I wanted to cover, several events during each century, and so I was able to just bring poetry, to the forefront in the creative process.
Yeah. And since you're working from an existing spiritual, I was wondering, kind of, the theme of family is a strong thread that runs throughout it. I wondered if that was something that you inserted intentionally, or if that just kind of rose out of the original work?
That is the original. Not my mother, not my, those first few
Yeah.
verses were actually the original, part of the original spiritual. So let me just read I won't sing it again. Unless you want an encore.
Please.
It's me, oh Lord, standing in the need of prayer. That's from the original spiritual. Not my mother, not my father, but it's me, oh Lord, standing in the need of prayer. And then there's one that's let out. It's something, there's a verse that's like, not my preacher, and but that's not in this retelling. But yeah, but so I chose to include the family stanza verse of the original spiritual, because of course it's for children, and family is important in the lives of children, very important in the lives of children, and in the life in the life of the community. Family is very important. It's a key value.
And for you, so much of your work comes back to music again and again. I wonder, why do you think that is? Is that a conscious thing, or are those just the topics you're drawn to?
It's a very conscious thing, and I am drawn to musical subject matter. In fact, I think music is probably one of my favorite subjects to write about. And I tell people that if I could really sing, really sing, I might not write. I grew up in a household where jazz was played, where I was also exposed to classical music, where my mother took me to the symphony, and where I went to church and heard, religious music, hymns. I grew up in the Methodist church, so we didn't hear a lot of spirituals in the sanctuary, although we did sing spirituals in Sunday school. So I grew up hearing all kinds of music, and I still love music to this day. And so, I've written about music several times, not just jazz, but I've written about rap music, and now, of course, and religious music as well. Frank and I also have a book about the hymn "Amazing Grace."
Right, and you're able to harness it with poetry, so it's a good fit.
Yeah, and one of my poetic mottos is poetry makes music with words. That's what really, the musicality of poetry is really what draws me to the genre. And I always want to make my words sing, regardless of whether they are poetry or prose.
Is there I wonder if there's something that you learned in the process of making this book, either about yourself or about the subject matter, if you had any sort of personal epiphanies.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. This was really a different sort of project for me, because I didn't have to because I had done so much research in the past, I didn't have to, to do a whole lot of research to write the interior text. I did, did have to revisit some research for the back matter. But no, I didn't. I don't think I learned anything new per se.
Okay.
Other than how really talented Frank Morrison is.
Sure. Well, and you're a master. There's not much left for you to learn.
Oh yeah. Oh no, don't say that. There's always something left to learn.
One more question, okay? What was one part about making this book, or just about the book itself, that brings you joy?
I think one thing that always tends to bring me joy is finishing a manuscript and reading the product, not necessarily the published product, but the finished manuscript. And then, because this is musical, I was able to in creating the text, I was able to kind of test out the verses of the added verses against the original tune. So, finishing the manuscript, and then like singing the whole thing, and seeing how it went. And I'll be honest, even though it's gone to press and will be out soon, I'm still revising it in my head. So if you hear me singing in public, I may vary, a bit from the script. And that is with African American spirituals, that is allowed. So if you hear me singing and I change a word or two, that's the way it goes with spirituals, because they are they're meant to be improvisational, and you can add your own words. And so I do encourage classrooms to add their own verses, whether whether those verses are about African American history or not. Add your own verses, tell your own story using that tune.
There you go. Thank you for sharing your version of it and for sharing the book and your voice with us today.
Thank you.
All right. Everybody, I believe the book publishes in September. Standing in the Need of Prayer, Carole Boston Weatherford and Frank Morrison. Make sure you check it out. And thanks again, Carole. So now I am going to turn things over to the Random House Children's Books School and Library team. Take it away.
Thank you, Ronny, and thank you so much to Carole again for such a wonderful conversation. I hope you all feel inspired to go pick up the book. We're very excited about it. My name is Emily Duvall. I am a library marketing manager here at Random House Children's Books. And thank you so much for joining us for our fall 2022 preview. We are excited to just jump in to some amazing books that we have coming this fall. I'm going to kick it off with picture books and some social emotional learning recommendations. All right. So All Our Neighbors. You know Suzanne Kaufman and Alexandra Penfold from All Are Welcome and Big Feelings, and this time they're back with All Our Neighbors. This is a vibrant picture book with their signature rhymes, and it celebrates neighbors with the familiar cast of characters from the previous books as they introduce a new kid to the community where everyone has a place and is loved and appreciated no matter what. Next slide. And we're very excited about this. This is The Little Book of Joy, sprung from the friendship, humor, and deep affection between the Nobel Peace Prize winners, His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Desmond Tutu. The Little Book of Joy is perfectly timed and an important gift from two revered spiritual leaders to children. It is a reminder that joy is abundant no matter what changes we face and has the power to transform the world around us, even in the darkest of times. And next slide. We have the new addition to the Misty the Cloud series from New York Times bestselling author and Today Show co-host and meteorologist Dylan Dreyer, which teaches readers about compromise, sharing, and dealing with good days, bad days, and everything in between. And next slide. This story is not about a kitten. Contrary to what you may believe, this story is not about a kitten hungry and dirty, scared and alone, needing a home, but about the community that rallies around the kitten with compassion and generosity. Randall Deceive's thoughtful and warm story is sure to fill readers of all ages with hope and the warm and fuzzy feeling that rescuing animals brings. Wonderfully complemented by Caldecott Honor winner Carson Ellis's breathtaking illustrations, this book is sure to be cherished by animal-loving readers everywhere. And next slide. Tell the Truth, Pangolin. This is a charming picture book full of delightful animal friends, including the growing in popularity Pangolin, and about finding the courage to be honest with those around you. Paulo Escobar's vibrant art gives this modern parable a fresh take. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Natalie.
Hi, everyone. My name is Natalie Capogrossi, and I'm here to talk about some nonfiction titles, starting with I'm a Volcano. In friendly, simple text with funny, engaging, and informative illustrations, a young volcano will teach readers everything there is to know about these natural wonders. And while volcanoes can be a bit scary, readers will learn that they are carefully monitored and that they give us a lot of beautiful things too. This nonfiction picture book is the second book in the Nonfiction Science Buddies series. Next slide, please. Curve and Flow, from Andrea J. Loney, the author of the Caldecott Honor-winning book, Double Bass Blues, and award-winning artist Keith Mallett comes the true story of Paul R. Williams, a world-renowned architect. An orphan Black boy growing up in America in the early 20th century, Paul R. Williams was obsessed with the concept of home. First, he dreamed of building his own home. Then, he turned his dreams into drawings. The extensive back matter featuring photos of Paul R. Williams' buildings and provides additional insights into his work and remarkable life. Next slide, please. The girl who built an ocean. She filled her pockets with seashells and specimens, and she filled her notebooks with observations about coral and crustaceans and all manner of marine life. This is the true story of Jean Villepreux-Power, a seamstress turned scientist during a time when women in science were startlingly rare. This is a great picture book for science and animal lovers. In fact, author Jess Keating, author of the Pink is for Blobfish series, is a zoologist turned author who writes with the sort of wisdom you can only get from multiple crocodile bites and skunk sprays. Next slide, please. Another nonfiction title, A Bear Far From Home. Long ago, the King of Norway gave the King of England a bear. The bear was a polar bear, at ease in her natural Arctic world until trappers captured her and delivered her to England. This gorgeous picture book with tapestry-inspired illustrations teaches a lesson through a true story about the importance of empathy for animals. Next slide, please. And tree hole homes, daytime dens and nighttime nooks. Imagine this. One day, you're walking through the woods and spot a tree hole large enough to slip inside. So you do, and you wonder, what kind of creature lived here? In this science and nature-themed picture book, nonfiction expert Melissa Stewart and illustrator Amy Hebron offer up an inviting peek into the secret world of tree hole dwellers. Share this book to inspire curiosity about the natural world. And I'll pass it over to Katie.
Hi everyone, I am Katie Halata. I'm here to tell you about some powerful stories of community and culture. We're going to start on the next slide with Standing in the Need of Prayer. You've already heard about this stunning and deeply moving picture book from Carole herself, so there's not much more for me to tell you about here except to say, run, don't walk to get your copy of this one. Next slide. What does Frances love most about Grandma's kitchen? The stories, of course. While helping to prepare for the New Year's Day meal, she listens as Grandma tells stories, dating back to the Atlantic slave trade, about the food for their feast. Through these stories, Frances learns not only about the ingredients and the dishes they're making, but about her ancestors and their history as well. Next slide. Mama's home. Home can be a blue house with a white trim that you share with your mama, but it can also be so much, much bigger than that. A girl basks in the warmth of her community in this powerful love letter about chosen families and the village that it takes to raise us, from Pushcart Prize-winning author Shay Youngblood and popular illustrator Lo Harris. I'm going to pass things along now to Erica to give you some more picture books.
Hi everyone, my name is Erica Stone and I'm here to tell you about some books to help build community. We'll start with Give This Book Away. 2 award-winning creators team up for a one-of-a-kind picture book that brilliantly introduces the act of giving in a concrete way for kids. This book is for you to read and enjoy and then give away. Or if it's a library book, share it with your friends. So share it with someone else and experience the joyful feeling of giving. So what are you waiting for? Share the joy, share the love, share this book. You'll be happy you did. Next slide. Scaredy Squirrel Visits the Doctor. Scaredy Squirrel is exactly the character children need today. A little bit anxious, adorable, and completely lovable. Kids will laugh along with this new picture book as Scaredy learns to brave the doctor for his regular checkup. As young listeners see Scaredy face his fears in the silliest of ways, they are sure to gain perspective, courage, and feel empowered to tackle their own worries with a big smile. And now back to Emily.
Hello again. I'm going to be sharing some picture books about family and relationships, starting with Me and the Boss, a story about mending and love. Acclaimed author Michelle Edwards and Coretta Scott King, John Steptoe award-winning illustrator April Harrison creates a funny and oh so true portrait of a brother and a sister's relationship in this winning picture book. Me and the Boss wonderfully captures that ever-evolving relationship between siblings. As a boss myself, I particularly loved this one and thought they captured it really well. Next slide. How We Say I Love You. In this heartwarming picture book, an Asian American girl shares how her family expresses their love for one another through actions rather than words. How do you tell your family that you love them? For Hannah, love is all around her. Mom stirs love into a steaming pot of zifen. Dad cheers with love at her soccer game. Hannah says goodnight with love by rubbing her grandma's feet and pouring her grandpa his sleepy tea. This is such a great read aloud that will spark sharing and conversation with little ones about how to show love and support for the important people in their life, and how gestures and kindness can sometimes communicate stronger than words. Next slide. My Brother is Away. With her older brother in prison, a young girl copes with the confusing feelings his absence creates. When she makes the 500-mile journey to visit him with her parents, a trip she knows that not all families are able to make, the girl is excited but also nervous. But the nerves turn to joy when she sees him. Everything is different, but everything is the same too. Her brother is not home, but his love hasn't changed. With words that are spare, gentle, and reassuring, this picture book will help young readers with similar stories feel less alone and give other readers a window into the struggles that some children face. Next slide. Will we always hold hands? Through a series of questions and answers, and will we always hold hands, Bear tells his friend Rat that the best friends will always be together, in rain or shine, in good times and bad, forever and ever. This sweet story sends the message that love knows no bounds and distance can't get in the way of friendship. Next slide. Calling the Wind. From acclaimed author of The Invisible Boy and the award-winning illustrator of One, inspired by Itaru Suzuki's Wind Telephone, which brought healing to the people of Japan in the wake of an earthquake and tsunami, this story explores grief and loss and how we move forward by finding meaningful ways to connect with the family and friends we've lost, as well as those who are still with us. And back over to Erica.
Hi again. Okay, so some fun and engaging storytime reads. We have Blue Bison Needs a Haircut. This is the next great picture book from Scott Rothman and Pete Oswald, the duo who brought you the Underwear Dragon books. This is a wildly hilarious story with a subtle message that waiting is hard, but sometimes necessary. Blue Bison likes to look neat and clean, but all the barbershops are closed. He tries to pass the time by ramming his ramrock, but that doesn't seem to help. His parents try to cheer him up by telling him he looks great, but that also doesn't really help either. Isn't there anyone who can help? Blue realizes that the help he needs might actually come from an unexpected place, his little sister. Next slide. Knitting for Dogs. This book teaches the all-important lesson that failure is simply part of the creative process. Izzy is a very crafty girl, and she can create all kinds of things. She is less adept at knitting sweaters, but is persistent in her efforts. After her failed creations pile up, she seems to lose faith in her creative abilities, but then her dog Max gives her new inspiration for her unique designs. You'll have to read this one to find out what happens, but the ending will have you reaching for your favorite furry friend to cuddle. Over to you, Michelle.
Hi everyone, I'm Michelle, and I'm going to be talking about some stories of imagination today. First, we have The Mermaid Moon, which is an imaginative story about two best friends, Molly, a little girl who lives on land, and Marin, a little mermaid who lives in the sea. And they only get to see each other once a year on the night of the mermaid moon, when sea creatures like Marin can fly in the air. The two friends love to hang out together. They like to eat ice cream together. They climb on trees together. They swing on swings in Molly's backyard. But when on land, sometimes it's not the safest place for Marin. And in true friendship fashion, when Marin is in danger, Molly shows how to be a good friend by sticking right by her side. This is a delightful and magical picture book about friendship that every mermaid lover will want to dive right into. Next slide, please. From the snowy day to little penguins, snowy stories are always in season. So much snow follows 7 forest creatures through a snowstorm that has them caught up into snow all the way up into their ears, into their antlers. Illustrated by Sarah Jacoby, the art is soft and has an instant classic feel, with a cumulative refrain, "How high will it go?" and a story that builds and reverses through the days of the week. This is a great read aloud and storytime choice. Now over to you, Adrienne.
Hi everyone, I'm Adrienne Weintraub, and I'm going to talk to you about a few of our Christmas stories that we have coming out. We have great new Christmas books to add to your collections, and I'll touch on two of them, but you'll see all of them on the screen. The Night Before the Nutcracker is a festive holiday picture book created in partnership with the American Ballet Theater and gives readers a front row seat to the opening performance. It is a perfect gift for young readers and dance fans. The Christmasaurus is a middle grade novel. Why settle for a pony or a puppy for Christmas when you could have a dinosaur? A rollicking adventure from singer-songwriter and YouTuber Tom Fletcher.
And hello again. So moving into some early readers, this is a roundup of new Step Into Reading books on the list this fall. We have extensions of picture book favorites that readers can grow with as they learn to read, like the Unicorn and the How To series from Jean Reagan, as well as a comic read for your budding graphic novel fans, and a Spanish Step Into Reading, and some great social emotional learning editions as well. Next slide. And here are some new additions to some of our chapter book series. And then Memories and Life Lessons from the Magic Treehouse, beloved author Mary Pope Osborne shares heartfelt advice and some of her own magic adventures with readers of all ages. We have books 1 and 2 in the Spooky Sleuth series for those craving some scares, and some sweet instant classics with the Famously Funny Parrot and Our Friend Hedgehog series. Next slide. And for chapter book graphic novels, we are excited to have new offerings at this level for our new graphic novel readers. You'll see another Magic Treehouse graphic novel of The Pirates Past Noon, which is a fun entryway into the series, and some favorite characters like Grumpy Monkey, which are so much fun in graphic novel form. And we're going to move it on over to middle grade, and I'll kick it back to Erica.
Hi again. I'm here to tell you about Mayor Goodboy Goes to Hollywood. Everyone's favorite dog Mayor is back in this new installment of the hilarious graphic novel series. The story continues with all new hijinks as Mayor Goodboy has gone from the first dog mayor to the first dog mayor on the silver screen. This very good dog is going to see his name in lights, one hilarious take at a time. Next slide. The Big Adventures of Baby Mouse, Once Upon a Messy Whisker. She's back. Baby Mouse always breaks the mold, and this new series is no exception. With a larger trim size, longer stories, and full color interiors, this new format is a must-read for any graphic novel reader. Baby Mouse's dreams are wild, her imagination is magical, and her whiskers are, well, always a mess. The Big Adventures of Baby Mouse is the perfect addition to this beloved series. Next slide. Strangeville School is definitely not cursed. Sideways Stories from Wayside School meets the podcast Welcome to Night Vale in this wacky new series. Harvey Hill wants other kids to think he's ordinary, so he's happy being the new kid at Strangeville Middle School. Except Strangeville is rather unusual. Something sinister swims in the drinking fountain, the cafeteria could swallow you whole, and a rat named Cuddles is on the loose. But when Harvey's new friend Stella goes missing while trying to solve a mystery, Harvey must embrace everything that makes him unique to save his new friend and school. Next slide. Dog Squad 2 Cat Crew. This is the second book in the Dog Squad series by award-winning and best-selling author Chris Grabenstein. Fred, the lovable stray and star of the hit streaming sensation Dog Squad, is back and working on a new show, Cat Crew. But there's something funny about these felines and suspicious about their animal trainer. Is this cat crew being electronically controlled? And what exactly is their trainer plotting? Can Fred save the day and the cats? Find out in this action and humor-packed sequel to Dog Squad. Next slide. The Terribles 2, A Witch's Last Resort. This is a highly illustrated young middle grade with a choose-your-own-adventure style chapter format and activities throughout. This humorous read will keep kids engaged, entertained, and coming back for more. It's sure to satisfy young readers looking for a silly, spooky series. In this second book of the series, the Terribles hold a class election for the next line overlord. That's basically their student body president, and the results are terrifying. Next slide. 1, 2, 3, scream. Stop. Do not read this book unless you want to be scared. These tales of terror are so horrible and so alarming, they had to be bound up in a book forever. That's why we're warning you to stay away from this book, or else. Get ready to scream with this collection of hilarifying, that's hilarious and terrifying tales. Next slide. Ben Yokoyama and the Cookie Thief. This is book 4 of the series that Lincoln Pierce, author of the Big Nate series, calls impossible to resist. When Ben's fortune cookie tells him that the best things in life are free, he believes he can get anything he wants without paying for it, as long as it's the best. But Ben's dreams of free cookies and fancy scooters are quickly dashed when schoolyard bully Flag McEggers steals his fortune. Ben learns that crime comes in many forms, and the real villains are not always the people we first suspect. And over to Katie.
Thank you, Erica. We can go to the next slide. School's out and Effie is ready for summer, but instead of spending the summer with her friends, she's headed to boring old summer camp. And she can't help but wonder what will happen when she heads off to the wilderness all by herself, away from the friends that she's always relied on. This hit middle grade graphic novel series continues with a brand new adventure that's filled with magic and mayhem. Next slide. In her middle grade debut, New York Times bestselling author Laura Sebastian takes us on an emotional fantasy adventure filled with magic, friendship, danger, and dark curses. Give Into the Glades to fans of Gail Carson Levine and Kelly Barnhill. Next. 13-year-old Annabelle has never been normal, even by her psychic family standards. Every generation in this unique family uses their abilities to help run the Ravenfall Inn, but it's hard to contribute when your only power is foreseeing death. So when 14-year-old Colin arrives, searching for his missing brother and the creatures that killed their parents, Anna jumps at the chance to be helpful. But the mysteries tied to Colin go much deeper than either of them expect. This is Halloween Town meets Supernatural in a spooky middle grade series from the acclaimed author of the Storm Crow duology. Next. In this start to an epic series packed with action, humor, and heart, Callie and their new friends quickly find themselves embedded in an ancient war, and their only hope to defeat the threats outside the kingdom lies in first defeating the bigotry within. This is a thrilling middle grade series opener that explores identity and gender amid sword fighting and magic and proves that anyone can be a hero. Next. Safia thought that being blind meant that she would only get to go on adventures through her audiobooks. But all of that changes when she goes to live with a distant and mysterious aunt, Lady Whimsy. When an unlikely group of chaotic agents comes after Lady Whimsy, Safia must become the hero of her own story and do whatever she can to help save the day. My Aunt is a Monster explores how anybody can do anything as long as they're given a chance and have the right people behind them. We're going to kick things over now to Adrian.
Thank you. Great. Futureland, Battle for the Park. Welcome to the most spectacular theme park in the world. Futureland is the start of a new illustrated series that combines the magic of Disney World with the technology of Westworld. When the new flying theme park arrives above Atlanta, everyone is excited until one boy realizes that things are going wrong and he is the only one that must figure things out. This one is great for fans of Spider-Man Miles Morales and the Stuart Gibbs Fun Jungle books. Next slide. You might remember Chad Sell from his debut graphic novel, The Cardboard Kingdom, or the first book in this series, in the Doodleville series. And now we have Doodleville #2, Art Attacks. Drew's doodles are back and they are still doing all sorts of things she didn't mean for them to do. This time they're planning a heist of the Art Institute of Chicago. Can Drew and her art club fix it before centuries worth of masterpieces are destroyed forever? You'll have to read it to find out. Next slide, please. So obviously superhero stories are big right now. When are they not? But what do you do when you are the only person in the world that doesn't have superpowers and you still need to save the world? That's what Noah is dealing with in this new quick page turning, heavily illustrated series. The authors are a husband and a wife team that have spent many years in animation in Hollywood, and we are very happy to have them bring their talents to books. Next slide. So Max Meow the Cat Crusader and his best friend Mindy are back in the Laugh Out Loud funny graphic novel series with Catitude by John Gallagher. In book 4, Max and Mindy have to save Mindy's father from the time-space continuum. But of course, nothing goes as planned. Kirkus called Max Meow catnip for fans of Dave Pilkey's Dogman, a superhero cat and an intrepid girl scientist. What's not to like? And next slide, please. The Little Bad Book #2, Even More Dangerous. This series was originally published in Germany, and it fits the bill for kids who like scary but not too scary stories with a splash of humor. Readers are pulled into the mystery of the secret that the book is hiding through riddles that help them navigate where they want to go within the book and solve mysteries. And with that, back to Michelle.
Thank you. The Area 51 Files. So this book is a little bit Men in Black and a little bit Nancy Drew. This heavily illustrated middle grade book is really, truly out of this world, fantastic, and full of alien mystery. Best-selling author Julie Buxman and the creator of the illustrated of Rick Riordan's most recent book deliver an epic, unputdownable tale overflowing with mystery, adventure, aliens, hedgehogs, and belly laughs. This is perfect for fans of Gordon Corman, Sarah Malnowski, and Max Brailer. Next slide, please. This is the second book in the Sinister Summer series, and it continues the adventures of the sinister Winterbottoms and their aunt, who never saw a discount vacation destination that she didn't really love, which I can relate to. This creepy middle grade series is full of horror and humor and mystery and really unusual characters, and it's perfect for Neil Gaiman, Trenton Lee, and Holly Black's middle grade. Next slide, please. This mystery-solving trio, the one and onlys, from Finally Something Mysterious, is back with another whodunit, featuring robot crows, a poetry/wrestling club, and a hamster infestation. Shanks and the crew are determined to find how everything is interconnected to crack this new case. Strange? Yes. Dangerous? We hope so. Put this in hands of fans of Carl Hiaasen. And now back to Emily.
All right, hello again. So for some contemporary stories, we're going to start with Sweet Valley Twins, Best Friends. Francine Pascal's beloved Sweet Valley Twins comes to life in a brand new graphic novel that will have old and new fans delighted as they meet Jessica and Elizabeth in graphic novel form. With the lively artwork of Claudia Aguirre, Sweet Valley Twins, Best Friends is a contemporary middle grade graphic novel filled with heart, laughter, and lots of twins, of course. Next slide. From the CSK John Steptoe Award for New Talent author David Brockley Moore, we are so excited to tell you about Holler of the Fireflies. When Javari goes to a STEM camp in a little town in West Virginia, the difference from his hometown in Bushwick, Brooklyn is eye-opening. In one summer, Javari will learn a lot about science, tech engineering and math, but also about rich people, racism, and hidden agendas. This is a powerful middle grade from a powerhouse author that will stay with you long after the last page. Next slide. 7th grade is going to be Eviliese's year. She's going to make a new friend, help her abuela Mimi get settled after moving from Puerto Rico, and she is not going to get into any more trouble at school. But of course, we know that that is not going to happen. Powerful and compassionate, Andrea Beatrice's Arango's debut novel in verse navigates mental health, finding your voice, and discovering that those who really love you will stay by your side. Next slide. Heroes Like Us. In this 2-novella collection, from the acclaimed author of Boy at the Back of the Class, discover kid heroes making a difference in the world, featuring old friends and some new classmates that you won't want to leave. We first meet Ahmet, who we fell in love with as the boy in the back of the class, who became famous when he and his friends stood up for refugee children like him all over Britain. But now they are invited to have tea with the Queen, and hilarity and hijinks ensues. Meanwhile, in the second novella, we meet new classmates who are volunteering at a food bank and have adventures of their own. Next slide. Show us who you are. From Schneider author Honor L. McNichol comes a sophomore middle grade novel full of heart. A neurodiverse 12-year-old girl is shown an amazing new technology that gives her another chance to talk to the best friend that she lost. But she soon discovers that the corporation behind the science hides dark secrets that only she can expose. And with that, I'm going to kick it over to Natalie.
Hello again. We're moving now onto historical fiction. From Cristina Diaz-Gonzalez, award-winning author of The Red Umbrella, comes The Bluest Sky, a compelling and timely middle grade drama about immigration and the wrenching decision to leave one's home country for the chance at a better life. Perfect for fans of moving historical novels, The Bluest Sky is set in Cuba, 1980. When Hector's mother announces that she wants the family to risk everything to go to the United States, he is torn. All his dreams and plans require him to stay in Cuba. But in a summer of heat and upheaval, he must choose between danger and deadly consequences and an unknown future. Next slide, please. This next title is a memoir, a different kind of normal, a real-life, completely true story about being unique. Author-illustrator Abigail Balfe did not discover she was autistic until she was kind of an adult. This is her delightfully illustrated memoir that recounts how she grew up in the confusing normal world. There'll be scary, hilarious, and heartwarming moments. And along the way, readers will learn some very crucial information about autism. Important, funny, and completely unique, this book is for anyone who has ever felt different. And I'll kick it over to Erica.
And I'm here to tell you about some horror books we have coming. Ghostlight. Kenneth Apple is back with a new middle grade novel that will satisfy anyone looking for a scary read. Rebecca Strand was just 16 when she and her father fell to their deaths from the top of the Gibraltar Point Lighthouse in 1839. Just how they fell remains a mystery, and their ghosts haunt the lighthouse to this day. Gabe tells this story every day when he gives the ghost tour on Toronto Island. He tries to make it scary enough to satisfy the tourists, but he doesn't actually believe in ghosts. That is until he finds himself face to face with Rebecca Strand. This is a roller coaster ride of a story about the wakeful and wicked dead. Next slide. Crazyland. Two kids discover another world beneath the ball pit of a spooky indoor arcade where the games have come to life. As a young child, Nathan was terrified of Crazyland, but now that he's 12, the spooky themed arcade games aren't that bad. He even enjoys stomping on plastic spiders and battling a creepy doll with big plastic eyes. But things became scarier again when kids start to go missing from the entertainment park. This is perfect for fans of Neil Gaiman, The Last Kids on Earth, and Goosebumps. And back to you, Emily.
Thanks, Erica. That Crazyland cover gets me every time. It's so scary. Okay, so we're going to move over to young adult. And I'm going to kick it off with some contemporary reads. From the award-winning author of A Heart and a Body of the World comes a gorgeous and fiercely feminist young adult novel. Harper has lived her whole life with unanswered questions about her anonymous sperm donor father. She's convinced that without knowing him, she can't know herself. When a chance Instagram post connects Harper to a half-sibling, that connection yields many more and ultimately leads Harper to uncover her father's identity. So fresh from a painful breakup and still reeling with anxiety that reached a lifetime high during the pandemic, who can relate to that? Harper joins her newfound half-siblings on a voyage to Hawaii to face their father. The events of that summer and the man they discover, a charismatic deep-sea diver obsessed with solving the mystery of a fragile sunken shipwreck, will force Harper to face some even bigger questions. Who is she? Is she her DNA, her experiences, her successes, her failures? Is she the things she loves or the things she hates? And who is she in dark times? And who might she become after them? This lyrical and literary novel is a special one that you likely will read in one sitting. Next slide. The 909 Project. It's been 2 years since his mom's death, and Jameson, his dad, and his younger sister seem to be coping, but they've been dealing with their loss separately and in different ways. When Jameson almost forgets the date of his mother's birthday, he worries that his memory of her is slipping away. To help make sense of the passing time, he picks up his camera, which his mother gave to him, and he begins to take photos of ordinary people on the street at the same place and same time each night. This turns into a school project and leads the way to healing and new beginnings. Next slide. When a teenage girl's single mom is taken by ICE, everything changes. All of her hopes and dreams for the future have turned into survival. In this vivid exploration of what happens when the country you have put your hopes into is fast shutting down, award-winning author Marina Budos shows us how one girl bursting with dreams navigates secrets, love, and the lure of the open road. And I'll kick it over to Katie.
All right, we have a few thrillers now to share with you guys, starting with Friends Like These. When a body is discovered at the beach, friends start turning on friends and lies start piling upon lies. From the author of Lies Like Wildfire comes another page-turning thriller about the little lies we tell before the truth sets us free. Next. On the surface, everything is perfectly ordinary in Cecilia Ellis's California coastal life, until the homecoming queen is murdered. And she's not the first dead queen the town has seen. Determined to crack the case, Cecilia throws herself into the investigation, but the more she uncovers, the more she begins to realize her own story might not have a happy ending. From the critically acclaimed author of The Ivies comes a nonstop thriller about a decades-old mystery, a copycat killing, and a teen who won't stop until she discovers the truth. Next slide. Haunted by the death of her twin sister Emily in a hit-and-run accident last Halloween, Devon Marsh is determined to start fresh when she boards a flight for her class's senior trip. When the supernatural creature hijacks the plane with a sinister ultimatum that may reveal who's responsible for Emily's death, Devon must decide whether to give in to revenge or to stop the creature from achieving its evil plan. And now over to Michelle.
Thanks, Katie. Now on to some romance, starting with Well, That Was Unexpected. New from Jessie Zutano, that comes a delightful YA rom-com that is truly a love letter to Indonesia, where Jessie spent some of her growing up years. We follow Charlotte and George, whose parents decide to take their romantic prospects into their own hands and start fake conversations online, pretending to be their children. Suddenly, Charlotte finds herself fake dating the son of one of the wealthiest families in Indonesia, full of hijinks and humor, complex family relationships, and gorgeous descriptions of the setting and culture and food. This YA rom-com will appeal to fans of Jenny Han, Ali Hazelwood, and anyone looking for a laugh-out-loud read. Next slide, please. Elaine's home is a little bit different. In fact, it's a funeral home that has been in her family since the 1800s, and that's why everyone calls her the funeral girl. But what happens when all of a sudden she's stuck in the middle of a love triangle with a cute new boy in town who loves ghost hunting and a friend that she's known forever who's starting to see her in a brand new light? And then she finds out that this home that she's been living in is most likely haunted by ghosts. This is contemporary YA romance with a paranormal twist that readers will devour. And now back to Erica.
Okay, on to some fantasy and sci-fi. Nubia the Awakening. This is a powerful saga of cousins who must navigate their newfound powers in a climate-ravaged New York City. This is perfect for fans of Black Panther and Children of Blood and Bone. In this epic Afrofuturist undertaking, actor-producer Omar Epps and writer Clarence A. Hines paint a startling and vibrant world filled with hope, resistance, adventure, and strength. Nubia the Awakening is a page-turning experience you will not soon forget. Next slide. Soul of the Deep. This is the highly anticipated sequel to the New York Times bestselling book Skin of the Sea, in which the world must pay the price for one mermaid's choice and a dark force reverberates across the realms. To save those closest to her, Simi traded away everything, her freedom, her family, and the boy she loves. Now she is sworn to serve a new god, watching over the land of the dead at the bottom of the ocean. With the fate of the world at stake, Simi must break her promise and team up with a scheming trickster of a god. And if they succeed, perhaps she can also unbreak her heart along the way and find herself again. Next slide. The Dragon's Promise. In this sequel to the wildly popular Six Crimson Cranes, Princess Shiori made a deathbed promise to return the dragon's pearl to its rightful owner, but keeping that promise is more dangerous than she ever could have imagined. She must journey to the kingdom of dragons, navigate political intrigue among humans and dragons alike, fend off thieves who covet the pearl for themselves, all while cultivating the appearance of a perfect princess to dissuade those who would see her burned at the stake for the magic that runs in her blood. Next slide. The Queue. Strap in for breakneck action and compelling characters in this non-stop thriller. 17-year-old Maisie Rojas has spent her entire life in the Queue, a post-pandemic quarantine zone. Lennon Pierce is the charismatic son of a US presidential candidate whose father's enemies kidnap and drop him out of a plane directly into the Queue. Lennon is given a temporary antidote to the disease and crucial intel for his father. Maisie must find a way to get Lennon out of the Queue within 48 hours or he will be permanently infected. Next slide. Other Ever Afters. This book asks the question, what if happily ever after turned out differently than expected? What if the giant who abducted you was thoughtful and kind? What if you didn't want to marry your handsome, popular, but cold inside suitor? What if your one true love has all the responsibilities that come with running a kingdom? Award-winning author Melanie Gilman's phenomenal colored pencil art creates another ever after for the characters who are the most worthy of it. And over to you, Adrienne.
Thanks, Erica. We have one historical fiction for you, and it's a good one. Berliners by Vesper Stamper is the companion to the Morris finalist and Sydney Taylor winning What the Night Sings. In this book, with her signature illustrated style, Vesper tells the riveting story about the rivalry between two brothers living on opposite sides of the Berlin Wall during its construction in the 1960s, and how their complicated legacy and dreams of greatness will determine their ultimate fate. And back over to Emily.
Thanks. I'm going to finish it off with some nonfiction. We're proud to deliver a young adult adaptation of the powerful best-selling nonfiction novel Cast by Pulitzer Prize-winning author Isabel Wilkerson. Young readers who are engaged more than ever with the world around them will be fascinated as they follow masterful narratives about real people that reveal an insidious phenomenon in the United States, a hidden caste system. Caste is not only about race or class, it's about power, which groups have it and which groups do not. Isabel Wilkerson explores historical social hierarchies, including those in India and Nazi Germany, and explains how perpetrating these rankings dehumanizes vast sections of society. Next slide. From the critically acclaimed author of The Borden Murders comes the thrilling story of Mary Surratt. Mary Surratt was a widow, a Catholic, a businesswoman, a slave owner, a Union resident, and the mother of a Confederate Secret Service courier. As the proprietor of the boarding house where John Wilkes Booth and his allies are known to have gathered, Mary Surratt was widely believed, as President Andrew Johnson famously put it, to have kept the nest that hatched the egg. But did Mrs. Surratt truly commit treason by aiding and abetting Booth in his plot to murder the president, or was she the victim of a spectacularly cruel coincidence? Here is a YA nonfiction at its best, gripping, thought-provoking, and unputdownable. Next slide. And ending with a graphic memoir, Maybe an Artist is a graphic memoir from one of the first Black female cartoonists to be published in The New Yorker when she was just 22 years old. Liz Montague offers a fresh perspective on life and social issues and proves that you don't need to be a white man to find success in art. Next slide. I think that is it for us. Thank you so much for joining us for our fall 2022 preview. To learn more, please do sign up for our newsletter on our website listed here, rhteacherslibrarians.com, where you will find lots of free downloadable resources for virtual learning and activities, discussion guides, and more. And please follow us on social to keep up with everything that we're up to. Thank you so much, and I'll hand it back over to Booklist.
Thank you so much, Random House Children's Book School and Library team. And another thank you to our special guest, Carole Boston Weatherford. Tomorrow, all attendees will receive an email containing links to today's video recording, slide presentation, title list, and a certificate of completion. For more about Booklist webinars, be sure to visit booklistonline.com/webinars, where you can view archives of past webinars and register for upcoming ones like those you see here. Not yet a subscriber? Pair the print reading experience with the convenience of online access at booklistonline.com and lock in print, online, digital, and archive access by taking advantage of this offer to get Booklist for $75. And for those of you who are unable to join us at ALA's annual conference in DC, Booklist's June issue is currently free and open to all. You can start reading on the Booklist website. Patron-friendly, librarian-approved, and free with a Booklist subscription. Booklist Reader, Booklist's new digital-only magazine highlighting diverse readers' advisory recommendations for all ages, has arrived. To see and share the latest issue, visit booklistonline.com/reader-issues. And we are excited to share that Booklist, Booklinks, and Booklist Reader recently joined the Overdrive magazine program in partnership with Zinio and are available for your patrons to read in Libby. Heading to ALA Annual in Washington, DC, Booklist has a ton of events happening during the entire conference to fill all your library and reading needs, including 2 Read Graphic panels, award shows galore, a program dedicated to fighting censorship in your school or library, a read and rave with library reads, author signings, book giveaways, swag, and more. Stop by booth 2010, that's 2010, or follow our Twitter page at ALA_Booklist for the latest on all of these events. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. One more huge thanks to our panelists, the Random House Children's Book School and Library team, as well as Carole Boston Weatherford, and our sponsor, which is also Random House Children's Books. This concludes today's webinar.